Hey everybody, welcome back to Boxcars Garage. Today's episode unfortunately has nothing to do with the Model A. I've actually put that on hold, not intentionally, but I just got busy with some other things. I did have an interesting project come in the other day. I had a friend of mine, his name's Justin. He likes to restore old Harley Davidsons. Right now he's working on a 68 Harley, it's a FLH. He's doing it for a family member, and they're going to present it at a birthday party which is upcoming, and he was kind of in a time crunch. He needed some help with some handlebars, and specifically a situation with the handlebars. He had a set of handlebars that fit the look, everything was great, but the one problem with those handlebars was that it had dimples that were pressed on the underneath side. So it was set up for 1982 and more current models than what the handlebars were originally stamped for. So we had to get rid of that dimple because his controls were going to be surface mounted, and while the dimple makes no problem for the controls on the top of the bar, the controls that mount to the underneath side of the bar, that dimple was right in the way of where the screw was going to travel up through and connect to the bar itself. So we had one or two options. We could cut out the dimple and splice in a replacement piece that would just give it the full round contour on the underneath side like he needed, or we could have bobbed off the entire handlebar and welded on a replacement end piece on both the right and left. So we decided that just cutting out the dimple from the bottom side and replacing it would prove less challenging and less chances of being able to see through any sort of possible replating job or whatever. So, being the top surface, as long as we don't affect the top surface, which is typically like the viewed surface of the handlebars, there would be less likelihood if things went south as far as a repair. So anyway, we just worked on the bottom part of the handlebars. We got the dimple out, and we spliced another piece in there and welded it up and grinded it down, and he's going to send it off to a chromer. This video is going to show you what we did picture wise. Didn't shoot a lot of video because he was in a time crunch, and as you may know, whenever you're shooting video and working lighting and everything else, it takes your project that should last an hour and it makes it 6 hours, or anyway it does for me. So we rocked on, and we got her done. We took some pictures along the way, did a little bit of video at the end when we did a little bit of cleanup on it to kind of show what our result was, and we talked about what the initial problem set was. So anyway, short on video, got some good pics. Take a look. So what he brought to the shop was, I would call these pretty much the standard Harley Davidson handlebars, from back in the day, some old school look, kind of swept back. And but the only issue with it was it had the dimples on the bottom. We had to get rid of those. So this was our starting point. We decided just to work on the bottom to get rid of those dimples rather than bob off the ends. I tried to promote this sort of solution, just completely cut it off, and but he wasn't having that. Somehow he wanted more, very demanding. So we started out by doing a freehand cut, getting the dimple out of there. We just used a 4-inch grinder with a cut-off blade. Everything was pretty straightforward. We had the tape to use as a guide for the cut, and there was really no surprises. We just took it slow, and we ended up with a pretty decent cut. We went back afterwards and dressed up the bottoms and whatnot in order to kind of square things up a little bit more. There's the dimple all cut out and just kind of sitting there. Really nothing much to say there other than it was easy to get out, and we actually did go back on the sides a little bit
to get a straight cut, so we didn't really cut directly on the dimple. The donor bars was a set of mini apes, and of course, dimensionally it was the same OD, so that was straightforward swap. I ended up using some magnets to keep the two surfaces in alignment during the weld up, and then I staged my weld up to allow adjustment during the process, since the welds will suck in and pull the metal in different directions. I had to give it a little motivation with a couple of taps here and there to keep everything leveled up during the process. We got our donor pieces cut and fitted up. I wanted to kind of sneak up to the size that we needed, so I had plenty of material and wouldn't run short on the donor pieces. So we crept up to that with some back and forth, and finally got it to where we wanted it, and used those magnets to hold it in place. As far as my weld setup, I had a Miller 252, had a 75-25 mix for this 13 gauge steel, 17.8 volts, and 190 is my wire speed, 030 wire. Overall weld turned really good. I think the biggest problem with the weld was kind of how we dressed it up after I got it done. Kind of a new guy mistake. I used a pretty aggressive flap wheel grinder, and probably took a little extra material off that the chromer will probably have to deal with in order to get it super smooth. But if I was to go back and do that again, I'd probably use like maybe a 120 grit flap wheel pad. Justin doing a little bit of cleanup while I shot a little bit of video. I knew I was gonna put something together on this once I got it done. Cleanup worked out pretty good. Again, I think we took off just a little bit too much material, but anyway, learning. You can see how it turned out there. I'll try to get some feedback from the chromer to see how much work he had to do. There's the controls mounted, mocked up, looking pretty good. And then a shot of Justin's bike. It's still in progress. This 68 is supposed to end up in Cycle Source or American Iron, and out of the chute, his 74 got some pretty good attention. It had a preliminary feature in Hot Bike, and was in that magazine either the second or the third month of 2018. So really is an up and coming Harley fabricator and bike guy extraordinaire. Justin does good work. So anyway, I was happy to be a part of this project, and for all you that have subscribed or thinking about subscribing, thanks for spending time with me and giving the channel a shot. Appreciate you being here, and please like, share, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. I try to keep good content coming out to you, always trying to refine the channel and looking for what people want to see. So you take care of yourself. Talk to you later.